Alright guys, so in the last video we went ahead and created our middleware so that we could verify the JSON web token that comes in from the client and basically authenticate our users. Now, up to this point we can register a user and get the token, but we need a way to be able to log in with users that are already in the database. So that's actually going to go in our routes API auth.js file, okay, because it's authentication. So it's going to be similar to what we did in the users, the register here, except instead of signing up a user, we're validating a user. So I think that a good idea would be to just copy this entire route that we did to register a user and go to our auth.js and put this right here and just kind of change things up as we need. So this is actually going to be a post request to API/auth, and this is going to authenticate user and get token. Okay, and this is going to be public, obviously, because the purpose of this route is to get the token so that you can make requests to private routes. Now, we're going to be using the Express validator, so I'm actually going to copy from users.js. Yeah, let's grab this right here. Also the config JWT, actually I think we already have that, so just these two here. Oh, we don't have the JWT, so we also want to copy that. And I think that should be good. So let's go down back here to this API/auth post request. Now we're not sending a name because this is a login. This is not a registration, so we can get rid of that and just keep the email and the password. Now the password, we just want to make sure that this exists. We don't want to check the length here. So let's change this to exists, and we'll say password is required. All right, so this is going to be the same. We're just checking for errors in the body. The request.body isn't going to have the name, it's just the email and password, so we can get rid of that. And then inside the try catch, we're going to check for the user. Now we want to check to see if there's not a user, and if there's not, then we want to send back an error. All right, so I want to do the same thing I did here and send an array with a message, and the message is going to say invalid credentials. All right, so we'll go ahead and do that. Yeah, that should be good. Actually, yeah, that should work. Now, we're not doing anything with the avatar, so we can completely get rid of this. We can get rid of that, all this stuff. And let's see. We're going to keep this here, the payload and sending the token, or signing the token and sending it back. But we need to match the user, the email and password. All right, so we have this user that's found, but we need to make sure that the password matches. So let's do, we need bcrypt. Did we bring that in here? No, we didn't. So we have to bring in bcrypt. So I'm going to bring that in right here. So bcrypt. Bcrypt.js. All right, so bcrypt has a method called compare, which takes a plain text password and a encrypted password and compares them and tells you if it's a match or not. So let's see, did we label this a sync? Yes, this is a sync. So compare returns a promise. So what I'll do is create a variable called isMatch and set it to await, and then bcrypt dot compare, which returns a promise. Normally we would do a dot then and so on, but I'm trying to keep this nice and neat with a sync await. So this takes in password, which is going to be the plain text password that the user enters, right? And then the second parameter is the encrypted password, which we can get from the user because we made a request to the database to get the user. And if the user isn't there, we return this error. If it is, then we have that password stored in that object, and we're going to compare these two. All right, now we want to check to see if there's a match, or rather if there's not a match. So we'll say if not is match, then we want to do this same thing, invalid credentials. All right, now just to talk a little bit about security here. In the first version of this course, I had different messages. I said, user does not exist in this one, and then I said password invalid in this one, which wasn't really a smart choice because then people could see if a user actually existed or not. It might not be a huge deal, but it could pose a security risk. So it's a good idea to just have the same exact response, whether there's no user or whether the password is wrong. All right, just figured I'd mention that. So let's see, under here, we're going to create the payload. So we have the user, we're setting the ID, and then we're signing the token, putting the payload in, the secret, which I don't believe we brought in config. Oh, yes, we did bring in config. All right, so we're bringing in config, get JWT secret, setting the expiration, and in our callback, we're sending back the token. All right, so that should do it. So we'll save this, and let's go back to Postman. Let's open up a new tab, and what we want to do is make a post request to this right here, API/auth, and we need to send along a content type in the header since we're sending data, and that's going to be JSON. So JSON, and in the body we're going to say raw, and let's send email. So techguyinfo@gmail.com, password. All right, so what I'm going to do first is do an email that doesn't exist. So I'll just add a 1 here and say send. So we get back invalid credentials, which is correct. Now let's do an email that does exist but with the wrong password, and we get invalid credentials. All right, now if we do something that should match, let's go ahead and send, and we get our token. Awesome. All right, so we can now log in to get the token. Now let's be sure to save this in users auth, and let's say login. Let's see, we said get auth user. Yeah, we'll just say login user, and we'll save. All right, so that's all set. Now let's just make sure that this token works. So I'm going to take this token and copy it. I'm going to go back to my get auth user, paste that in. Remember, this is a protected route. We'll send, and we get the user. Good. So let's try to register another user. I'm going to go back to my register tab, and let's do John Doe. And let's do we'll do jdoe@gmail, same password, and let's register. Okay, so we register John Doe, we get a token back. I'm going to take that token, go to the get auth user, and put in his token, and send, and we get John's information back. All right, so authentication for our back end is all set. We're able to log in, register, get a token, protect routes, all that stuff. So in the next section, we're going to start to work on the profile, which is going to have a lot of data, a lot of different fields. So we're going to have to create a model. We're going to create a bunch of routes and start to get into that. All right, so I'll see you in the next section.